friends, and welcome to Late Night America. Later in the program, we're going to meet a man who's suing the CIA. They say he's a homosexual. He says he's never tried to hide it. Right now, we're going to talk about organized crime. The United States Justice Department claims they've won significant battles against organized crime in the past few years. Our guest, himself a former Justice Department official under JFK and RFK, he agrees. He is G. Robert Blakey, attorney, professor of law at Notre Dame University. Good to meet you. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
When we talk about organized crime, really what are we talking about?
Well, you're talking about a broad range of criminal groups, although most people mean by organized crime the mob or the mafia. And I think that's what we'll talk about tonight.
When we use the term organized crime, mafia, Cosa Nostra, are all of those terms interchangeable?
No, they're not. There are a variety of groups involved in organized criminal activities, and they run the full range of ethnic groups. There are white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, there are Cuban Americans, there are Mexican Americans, there are black Americans, and there are Italian Americans. Mm-hmm. Most people mean, largely because of the movie The Godfather, by organized crime, the Mafia or La Cosa Nostra, or as some people, in some places, for example, Chicago, it's called the Outfit. Mm-hmm. Some people just call it the mob.
So it is not only wrong to hit on a whole group of people by labeling it the Mafia and saying that it's all Italian control, it's all over the place.
The word mafia no longer means mafia Italian. There's a group in the West called the Jewish Mafia. There's a group in the Southeast called the Dixie Mafia. Mm-hmm. Mafia probably now means an organized crime group, mm-hmm. and no longer, in my judgment at least, has the ethnic connotation that it did some years ago.
Okay, so we're talking about many groups and we're labeling it organized crime.
That's correct.
When we focus on the families and things like that, how many families are there and how many people are we talking about?
Well, in the principal national syndicate that's called the Mafia, there are 25 families and an estimated 2,000 members, and probably maybe 10 to 1 associates. Mm-hmm.
So what are we coming out with hard numbers?
Well, we're coming out hard numbers, made members, about 2,000.
2,000 altogether?
Yes, altogether.
Surprisingly low from my point of view.
The estimates in the late 60s were 3,000 to 5,000. Mm-hmm. The estimates now are 2,000, but they don't publish membership lists. Mm-hmm. It's not that easy to find out who's in.
We have a little chart here that you brought along. We take a look at that, Clark. And what does this represent that we see?
This is the structure of a typical family. The boss, the consigliere, the underboss, and each of the headings. Capodicina, sometimes it's called Caporegina. This is labeled as Caporegina, which is Italian for head of 10, although it doesn't mean there'll be 10 in each group. Each one of those groups are a subset within the organized crime family.
And do they have different responsibilities, different functions?
Well, they do. The family itself does not operate an illicit business. What it is, it's a kind of a fraternity of people who operate other illicit businesses. It's like a fraternity, more than a group that itself directly engages in crime.
So when we talk about a family, a mafia family, we're talking about like a fraternity?
That's right. Each individual will own an illicit business of one kind or have an influence in a union. The mob itself does not run the union. The mob itself does not run the narcotics scheme or the house of prostitution or the gambling business. The mob, as mob, doesn't do anything but regulate the relationships between its members, and when its members get in trouble, offer them expertise, violence, corruption, and things of this kind.
So are they kind of independent in their activities?
Absolutely. When you see the phrase soldier up there, that doesn't mean a foot soldier mm-hmm. that kind of goes out and fights a war. Any individual soldier will be as rich or as powerful as his own business activities. He may be as lowly in a gambling establishment as a doorman, or he may be in his own right a multimillionaire.
What is the advantage to being a part of the family? I mean, why isn't somebody just out there running their own business by themselves?
If you're wised up If you're connected, that means no other member of your family or any of the related families will interfere with your businesses. And if you want to move in an area, you have the backing of all of those other people.
Did they talk about it and make a decision about it up front? Like,
Oh, absolutely.
and you were given a particular territory?
Absolutely. And if there's a dispute, I mean, they don't have what we have. If you and I got into a contract and then there was a dispute on how to live up to it, we would go to a court to settle it. Well, what do you take, or where do you take a dispute over a narcotics contract? You can't take it to court. Where you take it to is the mob family. They'll settle disputes for you, and they'll execute the judgments for you. What it offers to people in crime are many of the advantages that government offers those of us in the upper world.
So in their business world, they have their own society.
The mob actually operates as an economic cartel. That is, it settles economic affairs, and it operates as a government. And it settles disputes and enforces contracts.
Let me ask the folks at home to jump into our conversation. 313 in Detroit, 872-4040. We're talking about organized crime this evening. Our guest is G. Robert Blakey. He is professor of law now at Notre Dame University. He's served with distinction in the federal government, the Justice Department specifically, under JFK, and then Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy. Where does the, wrong to say the Mafia, where does organized crime operate? I guess the answer could be everywhere.
There is organized criminal activity everywhere. The Mafia, or the mob, is principally in the Northeast and the Midwest, although they have families operating in Las Vegas, in Los Angeles, in Arizona, in Florida. But the principal operations are in the Midwest and the Northeast.
There's no real headquarters, is there?
No, no. It's a common mistake that there's something like a board of directors and a Mr. Big. That's not true. The families, the 25 families, are together in a loose confederation. And there is an entity called the Commission that's kind of a council of dukes, of nobles, that will settle inter-family disputes. But there's no Mr. Big, there's no national board of directors that sets policy.
What are the range of illegal and legal activities that these various families are involved in?
Basically, what they want is money and power. And anything that will produce for them money and power, they're into. Traditionally, they were into gambling in a heavy way. They were certainly, during Prohibition, into illicit alcohol. I would say the principal activity today is probably extortion. And I mean by extortion a very broad range of obtaining money by violence.
For example?
Loan sharking. They are heavily involved in unions, four principal unions: the Teamsters, the longshoremen, the hotel and restaurant workers, and the laborers. And I don't mean to, in any sense, libel all the unions in the country. There are some 500,000 officers in this country and some 75,000 locals. Only about 300 of them are corrupt. But in those four unions that I named are heavily controlled by the mob. And if you want to bring a ship into the port of New York, you deal with these people. If you want to operate a hotel, you deal with these people. If you are building a building and you have construction workers and they're in the laborers union, you deal with these people.
How do you deal with people? How do you, if you want to bring a ship into New York, how would you have to deal with them?
Well, I can kind of outline it with you with a prosecuted case. There was a president of one of the locals of the Longshoremen's Union who was also a capo regime in the Gambino family of La Cosa Nostra. That the organization of the union was like this and the organization of the mob was like this. He took regular payoffs from all the shippers. It was so regular, it had gone on for so long that it probably wasn't extortion anymore. He took tribute from these people as a price of doing business, much like we collect taxes in the legitimate society to give protection, police protection, fire protection for those people who do business in our society.
I've never had a chance to sit down with you before. It's a long time ago, but Jimmy Hoffa was in this town I had the opportunity to interview him on a couple of occasions, long interviews, hour and a half, 2 different occasions. Made a lot of news, obviously. He was on a move back. What do you think ever happened to him?
He was killed by the mob. The best judgment of the people in law enforcement is that he decided to come back in the Union, and one of the planks of his platform was to break the relationship between the Teamsters and the mob. And they told him in no uncertain terms, let well enough alone. He didn't, and they killed him.
Why does the mob flourish?
Well, there's a variety of reasons. It flourishes because it provides things that many of us want, drugs, prostitution, gambling, labor peace. It flourishes because many of us won't do what we have to do in terms of giving to law enforcement the tools that they need. For example, Michigan does not have electronic surveillance. Michigan does not have RICO legislation. Many of the major states with organized crime problems, Illinois, Ohio, have not adopted the kinds of legal tools that law enforcement needs to begin making a dent on these people. And if we want the services that they provide, and we will not give law enforcement the tools that they need to bring criminal and other sanctions to bear on them, we will have organized crime.
Yet, the Justice Department claims that there have been some significant dents made. I gather that you concur with that to a large degree.
I think there's just absolutely no doubt about it, that in the last 20 years, beginning really with the Kennedy administration, you've had an increasing involvement by the federal government in the organized crime field. The first effort under Robert Kennedy was a failure. There was then an effort to study why that program was a failure. There was then an effort to enact legislation to correct those defects, wiretapping legislation, RICO legislation, immunity legislation. That there was then an effort to reorganize the federal government in strike forces, to redesign and retool the FBI. All of that's now taking place, and what you see happening throughout the United States is major cases being brought against major organized crime families.
I want to put another chart on the screen right now that shows kind of a map of the United States and keys in on different areas, and although a little hard to read from our vantage point, what are some of the significant indictments and convictions?
These prosecutions are not significant because they're simply high echelon people. We've always been able to, with some frequency, to bring convictions against individuals. These prosecutions and indictments are particularly significant because the leadership structure in virtually all of the major families in the United States are today are either convicted or under prosecution. This is throughout the United States. That is literally unprecedented. We thought it was a victory in the Kennedy administration to get a conviction against a member. The FBI today and the strike forces today are taking out the leadership structures of whole families. That simply was not technically possible in 1960. It is now, in 1983, feasible not only at the federal level but the state and local level, and that it's being done at the federal level is to the clear credit of the young agents, the young prosecutors that are working overtime to make it possible.
We are talking tonight with a gentleman. I'm sure that just by watching him in action for the last 15 minutes, you can tell he is indeed an expert on organized crime. G. Robert Blakey is our guest, professor of law at Notre Dame University. He served with distinction in the Justice Department. Your phone call is coming up next on Late Night America. Hi there, you're on Late Night America.
Yes, Dennis, another outstanding program.
Thank you.
I'm calling from California. I'd like to ask your guests a couple questions, if I may.
Take your best shot. We've got a lot of people lined up in back of you. Give it your best.
Okay. Do you believe that organized crime handles most of their major payoffs to the pari-mutuel machines at the horse tracks throughout the country, sir?
No. I think they handle them with straight cash payments.
Nothing more than that, huh?
Nothing more than that.
Okay. Thank you very much for your call. Hi there. You're on Late Night America.
Hi, Dennis. My name is Russell. I'm calling from Syracuse, New York.
Go ahead,
I
Russell.
wanted to ask Mr. Blakey how he analyzes the struggle for the new action in Atlantic City.
There are real conflicts among those people who say they know something about law enforcement in Atlantic City. Some people suggest that the conflict in Philadelphia that's resulted in some 20 deaths in the old Bruno family is over Atlantic City, and that it represents an effort by people from New York, the Gambino family and the Genovese family, to move in. There are others that think the deaths in Philadelphia are the natural process of the family growing old, and that the conflict in New Jersey is indeed what it purports to be. That is, that the mob is making a major effort to move into the service industries, and particularly the unions in New Jersey. They have not yet penetrated the casinos.
Hi there. You're on Late Night America.
Hello, Dennis. My name is John. I'm from Springfield, New Jersey.
Go ahead, John.
To ask your guest a question, does he really think President Reagan can really break the back of organized crime?
The answer is no, with the current commitment of resources. The FBI has about 8,000 agents. They have about 1,300 agents devoted to organized crime.
Wow.
They have about 676 agents working on the mob. Those agents, spending about $90 million a year, are producing 150 convictions a year. If there are 2,000 members, that means it'll take about 13 years to lock up the mob. That's assuming they get life terms. And the current rate of convictions is not being accompanied by the kind of long-term imprisonment that would have that impact. Unless we also involve state and local efforts modeled on the successful federal efforts, what we're going to do is have showcase prosecutions at the federal level, but not ultimately get the job done.
Hi there. You're on Late Night America.
Yes, hello, my name is Booker T. I'm from Toledo, Ohio.
Go ahead.
And I just want to ask him, is Carlo Bambino dead? And if he is, who's head of the Mafia? And also, was Al Capone in the Mafia, being a Neapolitan as opposed to being a Sicilian?
The first answer is Carlo Gambino is dead. There is no one single person who's the head of the Mafia. Al Capone was a Neapolitan, but he was a member of the Mafia, or the Cosa Nostra, or the mob. What happened in the 1930s is the warring factions, some of them Calabrians, some of them Sicilians, some of them Neapolitans, got together and put together an Italian-American group that did not have the specific ethnic coloration of Neapolitan, Sicilian, or Calabrian.
Hi there. You're on Late Night America.
My name is Ann, and I'm calling from Grand Rapids. I have one question for Mr. Blakey.
Go ahead, Ann.
You mentioned earlier that organized crime was involved in something less than a half percentage of unions. My question is, how are they run differently from the other percentage of unions that are not run by the mob?
The vast majority of unions in this country are run absolutely honest. The steel workers, the rubber workers, the transportation workers are basically honest unions. They are as clean as a crystal. In the last 10 years, there have been approximately 500 federal convictions of involving corruption in some way in the unions. If 500,000 officers are involved, that's less than 1.0001%. Unions in this country are straight and honest. The corrupt ones, the mob-dominated ones, are exceptions. That's 300 locals out of about 75,000 locals. I think as integrity goes, the unions have nothing to take a second back seat to anyone on.
Hi there. You're on Late Night America.
Yes, my name is Michael. I'm calling from Toledo, Ohio.
Go ahead, Mike.
I'd like to know if you think that the Mafia played any part in the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and can you outline the case that they did play a part in that assassination? And the second question, do you think that the Mafia played any part in the murder of Bobby Kennedy? Thank you very much.
Well, let me answer the second question first. It's my judgment that they did not play a role in Robert Kennedy's death. It's my judgment on the president, it's a more difficult issue. If you believe that there was a conspiracy, then you have to look to what set of facts is the best scenario that holds together all of the evidence. And it seems to me is if you accept the conspiracy hypothesis, what you have to explain is who Jack Ruby was and why did Jack Ruby shoot Lee Harvey Oswald. And when you go into Jack Ruby's background, you will find that he is mob connected. And if Jack Ruby's assassination of Oswald is connected to the assassination, then the coloration of his character and associations colors what happened to the president himself. All of that depends on your acceptance of the conspiracy hypothesis. I would have told you several years ago that I was more convinced of the conspiracy hypothesis than I'm willing to say that I am now.
More than less now, but not totally out of the picture.
Let me say is I was the chief counsel and staff director of the Select Committee on Assassinations. And I spent approximately 2 years of my life investigating that particular assassination as well as Dr. King's. And another 2 years thereafter trying to put it all together. And I am like a lot of Americans. The current public opinion polls is 80% unwilling to accept the Warren Commission's conclusion.
Are you?
I am unwilling to accept the Warren Commission's conclusion that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone and there's no evidence of anything to the contrary, and the federal investigative agencies did their best. I know they didn't do their best. There is substantial evidence that there was a conspiracy. Whether or not, when I get down to the final issue, I have to say is that it sort of comes in and leaves out. It fades. Some days I'm more sure than I am of others. I wrote a book several years ago that tried to pull together all of the evidence, and it concluded that the best single scenario for the conspiracy hypothesis was that the mob had a hand in it. A central facet of that was the presence of two shooters in Dealey Plaza. I am less convinced of two shooters in Dealey Plaza today than I was 2 years ago.
If the mob was involved, what's the motivation?
Well, the Kennedy administration brought to bear on those people an unprecedented series of prosecutions. There are wiretap conversations of major members of the mob in which they complained about that pressure. Indeed, actually discussed killing the president.
Public knowledge?
Yes.
Hi there, you're on Late Night America.
Yes, Dennis, I'm Tom. I'm calling from Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Real quick, Tom, we're up against the clock.
Okay, two quick questions.
One quick question, real quick.
The Japanese Mafia, does it actually have infiltration into the United States West Coast? Also, does the Cuban, is there a Cuban organization that has formed out of the Mario boat lift?
Okay.
The answer to the first question is yes, and the answer to the second question is a lot of people think so. But I think it's too early to say.
We are somewhat hampered these times because of pledging around the country, so we are at 25-minute segments, which leaves all of us with a feeling that we did the best job we can. Your big pitch is for state and local involvement, isn't it?
I have no doubt about it. If we're going to make an impact on organized crime, the state and local people have to stop saying it's a federal job. The state and local people have to enact the legislation, wiretapping, electronic surveillance, RICO legislation, and they have to arm and organize their people and do it themselves.
G. Robert Blakey is our guest, professor of law at Notre Dame University. Very, very pleased to have you with us tonight. Good evening, friends, and welcome to Late Night America. Later in the program, a visit with Dr. Robin Cook. He has some thoughts about the crisis in medicine and a new best-selling novel. It's called Mind Bend. Right now, we're going to talk about the crackdown on organized crime. The 5 top mafia leaders in New York City are under indictment for a variety of things, from racketeering to murder. Is it the beginning of the end or a slight detour from business as usual? Our guest is G. Robert Blakey. He's professor of law at Notre Dame University, former U.S. Department of Justice official. Good to have you once again.
Thank you.
Mafia, Cosa Nostra, organized crime one and the same?
No, there are a number of groups in the United States involved in the drug traffic, among other things, and the mob or the mafia just happens to be the oldest and the strongest group. But by no means do they have a monopoly on anything, on prostitution, on pornography, on gambling, on drugs.
When you talk about the mafia, and I gather it's okay to say that word out loud again.
Well, the Department of Justice doesn't often say it out loud.
But they did this time around,
They did this time around.
What's noticeable there? Why the change?
Well, for one time there was, and I think it's appropriate that a lot of people in this country feel that the identification of the ethnic character of this particular group cast unfair aspersions on Italian Americans generally.
Sure.
And I think that's unfortunate they think that, because it doesn't. One of the fascinating things about it is the U.S. Attorney in the Southern District is a man named Giuliani, and it's more than appropriate that Giuliani will be prosecuting these cases.
So it'll kind of wash out as far as...
Well, it's going to kind of wash out. A lot of people got a bum rap. I don't see any reason why Italian Americans ought to have to suffer, because some of them are crooks.
Okay. Well, when we're talking about the mafia, we were talking about that which came from Sicily some years ago.
Yes, there are, yes, Virginia, it's true. There is a mafia. There are 24 families in this country, groups located in major metropolitan areas. New York has 5 families. The other cities typically have 1. Detroit has 1. Philadelphia has 1, and you can go right through the 24 families.
How many members are we talking about of the mafia?
The current estimate is about 1,700 active members. In addition, there would be another 10 or so associates that are not made members, not card-carrying members.
Okay, now if you add up all of organized crime, how many people do you have?
Well, I don't think anybody even has a good guesstimate at that. That'd be everybody involved in the drug traffic, everybody involved in prostitution, everybody involved in theft and fencing.
Is the mafia more organized?
Yes, the mafia is, in one sense, the most sophisticated, long-term, multi-activity group in the country.
When did it get rolling in the United States?
The mob was really put together in this country in the early 1900s. Its current form, which is the family structure with the commission, a kind of overall board of directors, was put together in the 30s.
And what triggered that?
Well, there was a series of wars among organized crime groups. The Italians were fighting the Sicilians. They were both fighting the Jews and the Irish. And the Italians sat down once and decided, let's stop fighting each other. Let's fight everybody else. And they did, and they virtually eliminated the Jewish groups, the Irish groups, the other groups at that time.
And took control? And
took control. I don't mean monopoly control, but they made themselves, in the communities in which they operated, the dominant group.
This thought struck me today, that their business is illegal activity.
Yes.
That's their business.
Yes. Well, they want money and power. And the difference between them and many other groups in our society is that they have no limitations on the means that they'll employ. They murder people, not out of poverty, not out of passion, but out of policy, out of a profit motive.
How do they square, since you say they are Italian Americans, how do they square what they do with any sense of morality or that which is Catholic churchy, you know?
Well, they're not church-going Catholics. Maybe the wives are, but I don't think they square it with a morality. They have their own morality. It's not conventional in that sense.
How successful is the mafia?
Very successful.
Do you have a price tag you can put on their activities?
I don't think anybody can...
Billions and billions?
Oh, yes. Clearly billions and billions. You see figures of 50 billion. But look, they don't file an annual report. And if they did, I wouldn't believe it anyway.
You talk about drugs, you talk about loan sharking, prostitution, pornography.
Their principal activity today, at least in my judgment, is loan sharking and infiltration of legitimate unions. They are not dominant in the drug traffic. The drug traffic is composed of cocaine, heroin, and marijuana. They are not deeply in either cocaine or marijuana.
For a reason?
Well, for a reason is that that aspect of the drug traffic, which is relatively recent, the last 10, 15 years, is almost totally dominated by Hispanic groups from Latin America.
And when you say infiltration of the unions, what do you mean there?
Oh, I mean there are 4 unions in this country, not all unions, 4 unions in this country where they have significant influence. The Teamsters, the laborers, the hotel and restaurant workers, and the international longshoremen. In many cases, the officership, not all, but in many cases, the officership of the union itself will be a member of the mob. For example, in the recent indictments in New York, one of the individuals indicted and it is identified as a member of the Colombo crime family is also an official in the laborers union.
Let me ask the folks at home to jump into the conversation. Our guest tonight is G. Robert Blakey. He is professor of law at Notre Dame University. Question, but that's how I've made a living for a long time. If all of their activity is illegal, how have they flourished for so long?
Basically, they've been organized, which means when they engage in crimes, it is very sophisticated. It's division of labor. They've been willing to specialize in various areas. And they've been able to bring to bear both violence and corruption on anybody that would investigate them and try to prosecute them.
Including the police? Including the police.
Yes.
Federal Bureau of Investigation? Or?
Well, no, I'm not suggesting that corruption alone explains it. Some of it has been our own unwillingness to adopt the kinds of laws that we need to investigate them. For example, the cases recently in New York were made through 2 things. Wiretapping and the federal RICO statute.
Yeah, tell us about the RICO statute.
Okay.
You were involved in that, weren't you?
I drafted it for the late Senator John L. McClellan. It's really his statute. What it does is it lets you prosecute the mob as mob. This case in New York, you're actually going to prove the founding and development of the mob. This case is to RICO what the Standard Oil prosecution was to the Sherman Act. That is to say, is that when the Sherman Act was passed in 1890, the development of the Standard Oil Trust was a principal reason for the development of the statute. Subsequently, the government did break up the antitrust, the Standard Oil Trust. This is exactly what's happening now. The committee report on RICO includes the names of many of the individuals in this indictment in New York. This prosecution is a follow-up of the congressional statute. Hopefully it will result in the breaking up of the mob in the same way as the Sherman Act resulted in the breaking up of the Standard Oil Trust.
How about the question I asked at the beginning of our conversation? Is it the beginning of the end, or is it a slight detour from illegal business as usual?
It's Churchill made a remark in the Second World War at the Battle of El Alamein. He said it's not the end, it's not the beginning, but it is the beginning of the end. If the government will follow this up, the criminal prosecution, with criminal forfeitures, with special sentencing procedures, if it'll follow up these leadership prosecutions with membership prosecutions, and if it will follow up the criminal prosecutions with civil suits against the corrupt unions, I am hopeful that we will see the breakup of the mob as we know it. And the stranglehold that they have over the unions, principally the 4 that I named, could be broken if the government will do more than simply prosecute these people criminally.
I was amazed to read that last year over 3,000 indictments with 2,200 convictions. I mean, somebody's stepped up the ante, haven't they?
Oh, yeah. Look, there's no doubt that in the last 10 years or so, we've seen a coming together of the FBI, the Department of Justice, the Congress in support of the effort with the legislation that they need. Our act has been together this time for the first time. And what's so promising about this is the people are in place, the legislation is in place. Apparently, the Reagan administration wants to make an impact in this. We have a shot at it. Now, we've got to get our act together, we've got to keep it together, we've got to follow through. Nobody should be promising anybody anything, for example, until these indictments are convictions.
We got 5 top mafia leaders in New York City.
We have the heads of the families in New York are the people who sit on the commission, the national ruling body. They and their immediate subordinates have been indicted for RICO, conspiracy to RICO, extortion, labor payoffs, and a series of murders. This is the most significant single criminal prosecution against organized crime in the history of this country.
From what you know about the hours and hours of taped evidence, the U.S. attorney saying that he can produce witnesses, how do you think the evidence is going to stand up?
I think the only question in this case is the admissibility of the electronic surveillance. The motion to suppress that will settle this case. If the government dotted its I's and crossed its T's in the surveillance applications, you're going to be entertained, and that's probably the right word for it, with these people talking among themselves about how they corrupted the cement industry, how they murdered other people, how they ran their business. We're going to get an inside look at the mob.
G. Robert Blakey is our guest, professor of law at Notre Dame University. Your phone call is coming up next on Late Night America. Hi there, you're on Late Night America.
Hi, Dennis. This is Jim from Louisiana.
Hi, Jim.
My question for Professor Blakely is earlier he had said that during the 20s and 30s, I believe that the Italian Americans had organized under the Mafia and driven out some of the other ethnic groups. Is that organization starting to lose control to the Hispanics, who seem to be dominating the more affluent drug traffic in the United States?
The answer is yes. It's very clear that the dominant position that the mob used to represent in the drug traffic, and by that I meant principally heroin, has been lost in the drug traffic to Hispanic groups, and by that I mean Mexican, Cuban, and Colombian groups. The drug traffic has shifted in this country from heroin in the ghettos to the use of marijuana and cocaine as really a recreational drug, cutting across all levels of our society. And the mob does not control or dominate either marijuana or cocaine.
Hi there, you're on Late Night America.
Good evening, Dennis.
Hi there.
The question I have for your guest is what he thinks the Italian mob feels towards Reagan and his new conservatism.
The truth of the matter is that most of the members of the mob tend to be a sort of bread and butter Democrats. And by that I mean concerned about social issues, but on economic and other issues, very conservative. My guess is if they voted, they probably voted for Reagan.
For Reagan?
Yes. Now, how they'll feel about him making the leadership position that he's taken on the organized crime program remains to be seen. The interesting thing is, I don't think they think this is serious yet. The history of it has been, is presidents come and go, attorneys come and go. Occasionally there are, about every 10 or 15 years, anti-mafia drives, but they've been the permanent factor. If history is any guide, they should not be concerned about these prosecutions. I think history is not a guide here, and they should be concerned about these prosecutions.
Hi there, you're on Late Night America.
Yes, my name is Gary Lorig. I'm calling from Cleveland, Ohio.
Hi, Gary.
When John Scalish passed away in Cleveland, I'd like to know who took over his position for the Cleveland family, and is Jackie Presser, who's the president of the Teamsters Union, what is his connection with the mob? Thank you.
There's been a lot of people who have talked about Jackie Presser having connections with the mob. That has not been proven in a congressional hearing. It certainly has not been proven in a trial. Mr. Presser has not been indicted, tried, or convicted. And I'm the last one to suggest that someone who has not been indicted, tried, or convicted is guilty of anything. The Cleveland mob has, in fact, undergone the kinds of prosecutions that are taking place in New York now. The Cleveland mob is in disarray. The Licavoli prosecution is the principal one in Cleveland, where they were able to prosecute the family under RICO in the federal courts. The interesting thing, though, is why wasn't those prosecutions done in the Ohio courts? Because Ohio doesn't have a RICO statute, because Ohio doesn't have a wiretap statute. Those cases had to be tried federally. That's the interesting thing about those cases.
Hi there, you're on Late Night America.
Hello, Dennis. This is Bruce in Ypsilanti.
Hi, Bruce.
A great show. Enjoy it. Watch it almost every night.
Thank you.
Well, I'm wondering, the other night you had a guest on your show who made a linkage between the CIA and organized crime, and in my own case, I've been fired from a Michigan university partly as a result of a remote analysis done by a psychologist out at the forensic center out here in Ypsilanti, and he has linkages to the CIA, and I'm wondering if my situation is at all related, could be related to organized crime. I don't know what's going on.
I can't comment on your situation. I will say that there is evidence that the CIA entered into a conspiracy with the mob in the 60s to assassinate President Fidel Castro. That's a fact. Whether there's any current relationship between the CIA and the mob, I seriously doubt it. The agency got its hands burned very badly once.
Hi there, you're on Late Night America.
Hi, this is Anonymous from Washington, D.C. I'm a member of local M29 of the ITU, which is a small-scale version of Local 29 of the Teamsters in New York City with the nepotism, the job control, the numbers and all. There's a proposed merger between the ITU and the Teamsters. Do you know anything about this? And could you comment on infiltration into other unions besides these big ones you mentioned earlier? Thank you.
Most of the unions in this country are straight. The auto workers, the rubber workers, the coal miners, honest. I mean, if they have problems, they have no more problems than any large institution has. They don't have a problem with systemic corruption. I named the 4 national unions that have historically had organized crime problems, demonstrated by repeated prosecutions by the Department of Justice of their leadership, and a public demonstration in court of an intimate connection between mob figures, and by that I mean the Mafia, and the leadership of the union. Those 4 are it. The rest of the unions, I'm not giving them a bill of health. I'm in no position to do either, say that they're clean or not clean. The public record indicates those 4 have the problem. The rest have no more problems than any other institutions in our society.
Do you think the mob was responsible for the death of Jimmy Hoffa?
Yes.
No question about that in your mind?
No.
You want to elaborate?
Pardon?
Do you want to elaborate?
Well, there are a number of people in New Jersey, principally in the Provenzano group in northern New Jersey, who have been identified by investigative reporters and others as having been had a falling out with Hoffa. Hoffa was wanted to go back and become the president of the union, and ironically, he was running on an anti-organized crime program. Although even his initial becoming a president was with linkages with organized crime, and the word in the street is that he was told to stay retired, to not get back in. He did not, and there's every indication that people connected to the mob killed him.
Hi there, you're on Late Night America.
Yes, this is Alex from Clearwater, Florida.
Hi there.
And I had a question. In reference to the rumor that I heard that the government is going to print currency, new currency, to try to get some of this underground money, basically the mob money, out of circulation. What does he know in reference to that? And also, what effects does he feel? Will it have any? And in reference to, you know, mom and pop that might have $30,000 or $40,000 in a savings deposit box somewhere, is it going to hurt them, or is the mob going to miss $1 million?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think the mob would miss $1 million. Certainly, the organized crime groups in Florida, with some regularity, have posted $1 million bails and then walked. But to the degree that that money is held in cash, if the federal government were to say, turn in your cash within the next 30 days and exchange it, thereafter it's no longer negotiable, that would have an enormous impact on those people who hold cash. If you turned it in, you'd have to explain where it came from. You couldn't have it in a strong box in the basement. That is one of the suggestions that have been periodically made to put a crimp in the generation of cash, the holding of that cash outside of the legitimate economy.
Do you think it'll ever be done?
Yes.
You do think it will be done?
Yes, I think it will be done.
What's wrong with having 30 or 40,000 stashed away in a box someplace?
Nothing. and just exchange it and get the new money. If there's nothing wrong with it, there's no problem with it.
Isn't that amazing how they keep testing all these bills in Miami area and they all have cocaine on them?
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
And isn't it interesting the people who have them? Priests, cardinals,
well, I mean, if it's
cops,
all, it's everything.
Yeah.
It's everything.
Well, if you think about an $80 billion drug traffic, and that's what the estimate is, a couple of years ago, it's probably $110 billion now. That's a lot of money.
Hi there, you're on Late Night America?
Yeah, this is Grant Najolski from Bay City, Michigan.
Hi.
Professional sports, college sports, and the mob. Any connection?
There has been a problem occasionally, particularly in college basketball, not football or baseball, where a player will be corrupted by a gambler, and in some situations, that gambler will have mob connections. On the whole, college sports are corrupted. Indeed, they are corrupted, but they're not corrupted by mob figures. They're corrupted by universities and alumni who care more about winning than academics, and who bring kids to schools, don't educate them, exploit them for 4 or 5 years on an athletic field or playing court. That's a different kind of corruption. That's present, but I wouldn't blame corruption in sports on the mob.
Let me sneak in one more call real fast. Hi there, you're on Late Night America?
Yeah, Bill from Cookeville, Tennessee. To the professor, why don't you and the other key people fear for your life or some kind of reprisal? After all, if the mob gets serious about this, they've taken out people like Hoffa, or reportedly so.
Okay, thank you.
If I was a witness to a particular event and my testimony could threaten the incarceration of an individual, I think I would be concerned. But I'm not concerned about my life. Hey, look, currently they're winning. I'm not a threat to them. If I were, I think I would maybe be concerned. But as long as I'm not a witness, as long as there's nothing personal in it, and I'm just doing my job, I have no personal concern.
Now, in the 45 seconds that we have left, goes by quickly, what timetable do you see? What do you want us to keep our eyes on in the newspapers and on radio and television?
Watch to see if forfeiture counts are added to that indictment in New York.
What does that mean?
That means instead of moving against the individuals to lock them up, they also move against their assets. Okay, that's the key thing to watch. If you see that happen, the government's serious. If you don't see that happen, it's one more criminal prosecution, and it won't make that much difference.
Oh, so that's what we've got to keep our... And over the next 3 months, 6 months?
The forfeiture counts, look when the convictions go down to see if there's an effort made for long-term incarceration. Watch to see if civil suits follow the corrupted institutions. If those things happen, the government's serious. If it's not, they're just looking for convictions.
G. Robert Blakey, professor of law at Notre Dame University.